Well, we back again. It's the boys. You got my man A1 in the building. You got me, Cannon. We got special guests. Obviously, my man J Fax and the boy, the man, the myth, the legend, David Chandler in the building. Earlier, we did a show on astral projections. Check that channel out. If you're not subscribed, that's my man A1 the Sauce, also a part of the Battle of the Ideologies debate league. Get ready to get prepared for his next challenge.
What's up?
But
What's
right,
up?
Loss. His next loss.
oh, but we gonna do something a little different. We in solidarity and unity. We just politicking and chopping it up on some things. We talked about magic earlier, bloodlines, and the Bible. We went over a lot of different things, and it was a good, enjoyable experience. We were on like what was it, like 2 hours?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we was
And
going for a
so
minute.
for sure, A1, tell us a little bit about what we get ready to do right now.
Right now, we doing part 2 of Magic, Bloodlines, in the Bible. This is you know what, it doesn't say it on here. This is episode 2 of the Conspiracy Corner. You know what I'm saying? All theories are welcome. Bring your best theory as long as it makes sense. We all ears. And we going over all the different mythologies, covering syncretism, and how all this stuff ties together. So, with that being said, let's get into it.
Okay. So we also have additional guests on. Got J Fax and David on simply because earlier, well, there was I don't know if you weren't watching, there was a debate yesterday and it was about magic. Fax, tell us about what the debate was about.
Show their
Yeah, it
icons.
was.
Oh, oh yeah. You said you want to
Yeah, it
show
was
the icon?
Yeah, show everybody's little icon. Yeah, like that. It was on
Oh,
the
you
type.
on the big stage.
all right, right. So, yeah, that debate was about whether or not Aleister Crowley created the practice and concept. We removed the word 2 minutes before the show started of magic with a K, and also whether or not magic with a K was different or the same as the magic that was practiced in ancient Egypt, ancient Mesopotamia, and if it was the same as magic with a C. That's what that was about.
Okay. So yeah, and then earlier today, David brought in some extra information as pertaining to the magic side. After we or so when we got into it, David started talking about some things referring to Aleister Crowley, Helena Blavatsky. Go into that real quick, David, just to give us a brief overview.
Well, I spoke about Helena Blavatsky and how she came up with the term theosophy. Now, theosophy basically comes from two Greek words, and you have sophos, where we get the word Sophia from, or the name Sophia from, and that's love, that's wisdom. And you have theos, which means in this context you have divine, or so it's called divine wisdom or esoteric wisdom. And Blavatsky, I also talked about, I didn't really get into her being called the mother of New Age thought, which I'm pretty sure we're going to get into later on in the show. But Blavatsky taught in the idea of a form of Luciferianism, which means that they didn't look at Lucifer as the devil, or the personification of evil, but they looked at her and Rudolf Steiner and all these others. They looked at Lucifer as the light bearer, or the liberator of mankind. Crowley, on the other hand, kind of took it a step further. He was a little darker. He believed that Lucifer was Satan, and that he was his chief of staff. When he went to Egypt after getting kicked out of Italy for his child sacrifices, he wrote a book by way of a familiar spirit, Aiwas, called the Book of the Law. And in the Book of the Law, he wrote Love, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the love under will, which is the law of Thelema, which is will. And this is by way you can practice magic by the force of the will, which is Thelema. This is how Crowley.
And that's magic with a K.
Right. That's how Crowley came up with the idea of magic. You know, you manipulate the natural world by the force of the will, which is through your words. You know, and so this is what Crowley taught. Crowley also taught. He wrote a number of books called Magic Theory and Practice, and he also wrote a book called Aleister Crowley 777. Now. This is kind of interesting because some of his works were really dark. And then not only that, but he was a member of a lot of secret societies. Now, I'm pretty sure we're going to get into secret societies later on in the show, one of which is the Ordo Templi Orientis and the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. This is where he met a guy by the name of Samuel Untermeyer. Samuel Untermeyer he built Untermeyer Park. That's where a lot of the satanic sacrifices and rituals were taking place right after David Berkowitz, who was the son of Sam, was arrested.
So David, we're gonna go a little deeper into that in a second. I know you ready to shoot off the hip, boy. Let me introduce GT.
What's
GT.
up? What's up, bros?
What's up, champ? So you was on earlier. Well, you weren't on, but you were in the chats giving us feedback about Genesis, Enoch, and the former. Talk a little bit about that.
Okay. I know the subject I heard was when y'all was talking about the fallen angels teaching women magic. And not only that, they were also instructing mankind how to build weapons, swords, and things for war. Also, the process of working with roots and plants. If you know, a lot of medicine or drugs are made from plants. And one of the points that I also wanted to make was that in the book of Revelation, you will read where it says that they did not repent of their murders and their sorceries. The Greek word that's being used there is pharmakia, which kind of adds to the idea that this mystery religion was also involved in some type of drug use, psychedelic drug use. What else did you go into that I can recall? I know we was talking about Persia's involvement, the Aryans. I think that was a good point. That's your strong suit. I'm not that strong in that, and I always enjoy listening to you talk about that because it adds another little piece of puzzle to the puzzle that I already have. So I learned a lot from that. So what else? That's all I can really think of right now. The Book of Enoch. Yes, I don't believe it to be inspired text, but I do believe it holds a lot of good commentary and good reasoning. It kind of helps fill in some of the gaps to which the Bible doesn't speak on. You see what I'm saying? And with things that are not biblical, we always have to take it with a grain of salt. But Enoch to me is very credible.
That's a bet, man. I appreciate y'all for, of course, being a part of the team. You know, me and A1 working on this new project in terms of developing this this corner. What was the name of it again? A1, our series that we was gonna start running with.
The show is called Conspiracy Corner.
Yep,
The
Conspiracy Corner.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
and a lot of this isn't necessarily what we fully teach or anything like that. It's more so a collection of information that has been compiled about other people's teachings. we run into people with different ideologies all the time. We run into different things that we can't necessarily teach is doctrine, or we don't necessarily practice these things, but we know the information because it's something that we've studied and we've gleaned. And so you have a loose confederate of gentlemen up here who have are subject matter experts
Hey,
in a
can I
particular
say
area.
something? Can I say something to Dave too? Kind of caveat of what he said about their attitude towards Lucifer. I'm reminded of Albert Pike in his book. It's called Morals and Dogma. Y'all can look that up. He praises Lucifer. He goes as far as saying like, "Oh, why would the devil or this evil being be considered an angel of light?" And yes, so Albert Pike, if you don't know, was a Confederate soldier who also was a 33rd degree Freemason, one of the highest ranks in Freemason that you can get into, um, or that you can go up to. Although I've heard there's more ranks than that, but he's also, this is interesting, he's also responsible for creating, according to some sources, for creating the Ku Klux Klan. Very interesting.
I appreciate that.
And
That's
also,
go
look at
ahead.
Manly. I'm sorry about that. Also, look at Manly P. Hall, who is also a prominent figure in the Freemason. The Prince. Well, not the Prince Hall Freemasonry, obviously, but it's called Freemasonry, and he wrote a couple of books. So he too was a Luciferian.
Yes, sir. And so, of course, I'll just say, as we were getting into this
I'm not
information.
about to just let y'all sound all smart like I don't know what I'm talking about. Yo, so I also know that King of Babylon was a Luciferian. You know what I'm saying?
It's too late now. You make it.
Yeah, you had your spot. Say no, but on a serious note, the reason why I started early on, if you notice that we've mentioned roughly many people of European descent, because there is a specific amount of information that we've heard over the last couple of weeks, and a lot of times we often hear, well, they stole it from Africans. Um, the thing about syncretism isn't thievery; it's mixing their practices with their own or adapting because of using the synergy from it, so to speak. Um, a lot of people don't typically realize that these things started far before Egypt and go back into the early echelons of, we'll just say, the ancient Near East, and just the cultures that spring out from there in the Fertile Crescent and the Harappan civilization, which is in India, in the Indus Valley. And so syncretism is the amalgamation or attempted amalgamation of different religions, cultures, or schools of thought, i.e., the merging of different inflectional varieties of a word during the development of a language. And, I think that second definition is funny, but
I got a question.
yeah. What's your question?
Um, so I just saw a documentary on the Indus Valley civilization, and
Hmm.
the archaeologists seem to indicate that they couldn't find any evidence of religion. Is have you found anything contrary to that?
Yeah, there's a lot of information in reference to the geographical location and things of that nature. We can get into that in a few minutes. I'll bring it up, and then we can just look at it together as a group.
Okay.
And so what I was saying was we've done a look at uh fallen angels. We've briefly looked at Mesoamerica. We looked at the Mayans, the Incans, and the Aztecs. We talked about dragons for a second, and then we looked at the Scythian people who come out of Iran. And for those who know, who don't know, Iran was previously called Persia. And speaking of, let me pull up, or could my brother who's running the boards right now, could you pull up media, the country media, like Medo Persia, and then I'll start with that, and then I'll give the floor over to um as Media, just type in like the country, and then just like put country next to it.
Yeah, I think before Persia was called Persia or Medio Persia, it was the land of the Elamites.
Yeah, media. Yep, the region. So yep. Let's see. Oh, it ain't come up.
I didn't even know that there was a country called Media.
Oh yeah, that's
Well,
where
it's
you
the
get
it's
to.
the region. It's the region where the Medes and the Persians, they both shared. I think the Medes were in the north part of Iran, while the Persians were in the southern part. And if you recall, uh, the prophecy given by Daniel, where he talks about the horn of the ram. I believe, I can't remember what chapter it is, but he talks about how the I think he refers to it as a he goat, or no, a ram, and how one horn was higher than the other, and this,
Ram and the he goat.
yeah, signify or symbolize the power structure in Medo-Persia, where the Medes were the lower horn and the Persians were the highest horn, because they eventually took over the Medes, and the entire land became the land of the Persians.
All right, that's good information, bro.
That was
So
Daniel 8, I believe.
yeah, it's definitely in Daniel. So media
So I
is
want to say, GT, you said if you recall, I know what I said earlier. I ain't want to sound like I know what I was talking about on this panel. But bro, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about on this panel. This specific conversation is way beyond my pay grade. Maybe I'm a student here. I'm listening to y'all. I can only lend
We all
to it.
learning, bro. We all learning.
Yeah, that's Daniel chapter 8. It talks about the ram and the he goat, and then the little horn is in the very next chapter, and he talks about the little horn that is to come. That's what Daniel was seeing there. But yeah, Daniel 8.
The little horn is on the he goat, which belongs to Greece, the king of Greece.
So
But
that's the same chapter.
yeah, it should be the same chapter, because it's for what you call situations is going on. The Persians, remember in history too, the Persians came in, then the Persians got beat by the Greeks, and then the Greeks got overran by the Romans, and the
Yeah,
Romans,
Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth.
yeah. So, but that chapter right there is, as far as Medio Persia is concerned, that's what I was pointing at. But if it's not coming up on Google as Media Persia, uh I don't know why, but I do recall them being called Media Persia to reflect the fact that they were co-regents in that land.
I'm looking over here on Google. Well, this is QR though. It says Persia is another name for Iran, the country. So Persia is modern Iran. Medes
Mhm.
were an Iranian people, and the region where they lived was called Media. Media was a triangle between the ancient Iranian cities Ekbatani, uh, Hamidian, and Ray. Yeah, that's the. I clicked the picture so that way we can see the exact spot where the region is. I don't know how that looks on your screen.
it's a fairly decent size.
Okay, I'll
You
go
can
back.
you can make it bigger. I can make it bigger if you want. Full screen layout. There we go. It looks good now.
Okay.
So if you see where Media is,
Yep.
look where Assyria is, look where Greece is, look where Persia is, look where even where Egypt is. This is roughly in the Fertile Crescent, with the
Hmm.
exception of Arabia. Can you see that?
Yeah, Assyria is kind of west, and then Media is north of Persia. Then India is kind of south and east.
The reason why this is pretty interesting, A1, don't you got a boy from Armenia?
Yep, my homie from Armenia. He Armenian, yeah.
Yep. So look where Assyria is, and then look where Armenia is.
Now, aren't the Caucasus Mountains over here in the Armenian area as well?
Not far.
Not far. Okay.
Pull it up. See where it's. If you take it. If you take us back to the Caucasus Mountains, we can land drop our anchors right there, and we can work our way down into the cultures and start looking at some of the practices and what the bloodlines are in that area.
Got you.
And then
Correct.
we'll start breaking it down.
I
All
may
right.
be wrong, but I think the Black Sea. I think you made mention of the Black Sea earlier.
For sure.
I think it's near the Caucasus Mountains.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. I just saw a map. Hold on. Where'd it go?
There's Turkey, there's Georgia, Syria, Lebanon, all in that swath of land.
The Caucasus Mountains include the Greater Caucasus in the north and the Lesser Caucasus in the south. The Greater Caucasus runs west, northwest to east, southwest, and from the Western Caucasus. Okay, I'm just trying to read where it's at. This map sucks right here, though.
Yeah, I would just go into
Yeah, let me go back and go to
yeah.
images. Okay.
If the other maps was better, but you know how that go.
See,
Wikipedia good is hit and miss.
Usually it's a miss.
we are doing all this live today, folks. Usually I have the whole presentation put together for you, but
With
we
this
just doing
more
this
like
on the
a
fly.
this an impromptu just to get people into what how we gonna be
I
moving.
want to ask you one question. So
Okay, here we go.
searching on web browsers is just impromptu. It's not a presentation, huh?
I said normally I have my presentation put. No, I didn't say that. It's a presentation. Oh, it's a presentation when it's said and done, but normally I have it put together beforehand. I'm
Here
not.
go one right here. If you look at the bottom right, where you was scroll down or you moved off of it.
Okay, hold on. Let me close that. I like this one because I can actually see between
Yeah.
Russia and Turkey, though, and Armenia is right here at the bottom of the Lesser Caucasus. Like,
Yep.
so I knew because I was reading one day and I was looking at a map. I'm like, dang, he from right there. That's where his people's from. And I know the Muslims, they did a Armenian genocide and they made like 2 million of them walk to their death. 2 million Christians. I read a book about that when I was like 19 or 20. And they pretty much wiped it from the history of the Turkish, from the Turkish history books. They wiped it, like kind of how they trying to take CTE out now. So
Mm-hmm.
that way people don't feel bad. Like if you even bring it up in public, they'll arrest you in Turkey. But yeah, which map were you looking at?
Scroll down just a tad bit.
This one right here with all the colors.
I mean that might work. I didn't see if it blows up. If not, we can. So I can see in one of the maps where it says like World Atlas, it says Turkey, Armenia, Azerbaijan, however you say it, Georgia, not like Atlanta, Georgia, the Greater Caucasus. Turkey is Turkey has been around for a long time. What do you guys know about Turkish people?
It's not even showing you what I'm seeing. My bad. I'm looking at the
Yeah,
map big. Y'all
I was
not even
saying
seeing it.
y'all should have used Google Earth.
That would have been a good one.
Yeah, and then Turkey, uh, they've discovered like some of like one of the oldest civilizations right off the base of
Go
Turkey.
Black Techie.
Yeah, you got Go Black Tepe, but you also have another one that's older than Go Black Tepe. But it's some of the same style, but you could tell it's a little older from the the petroglyphs. Um, but they said, some of your first wineries came from that land. Uh, what else? Um, they found they found tweezers, like metal tweezers that were not supposed to be in use at that time, like dated, I think, close to 10,000 something BC according to their calculations.
From where?
Um,
What area?
uh, in the around the Mount Ararat area in Turkey.
So
They
this is all
they
in this
found
cultural area too.
they found like metallurgy. This where they found those tweezers had a little spring in it. Uh, what else? I already talked about the grapes, like the wine. Um, yeah, yeah.
So something
So
else that's interesting about this area is this is part of the old Akkadian Empire. At one point, it was the Akkadian Empire.
Akkadian. So that takes me to what's his name, Sargon the First, who came into
That's
power. I think he was an Amorite, and I think he's accredited as being one of the first persons to have like a real centralized style government. And
Interesting.
I think he was the first king of Agad, as they said. They spell it in so many different ways. Like you got Agad, Agade, and then you got Akkad. You know what I'm saying? Uh,
Mhm.
but yeah, you got Sargon the first, and some people, which I don't agree with, they tie him in as being the biblical Nimrod, which I disagree.
yeah, I've seen that. I did a podcast on the Ten Commandments, and I was going over how Sargon's story is reminiscent of Moses' story. He gets sent up the river in a reed basket,
Yeah,
found by a king, and
it
saves
was
the people.
it was
Um,
actually uh the king's wife,
yep, yep, yep.
and but uh I think they say like the reason why, like they don't, it's almost like the, how can I say it, they're saying it, and like archaeologists are saying it in the sense that the story was made up by Sargon because he usurped the throne. So the story that was concocted with him being uh, sent up the river and found by the king's wife, and the king suddenly dies at a certain age, and then Sargon becomes the greatest king on the Assyrian kings list. Um, it was only done to legitimize his kingship.
Mhm.
But it is interesting that it does matches um, the story of Moses, as far as Moses having been sent up to be saved from slaughter.
Yeah, I thought
Right.
that was major. Like that's what made me really look into it. I look for I was going over syncretism and studying the ancient mythologies from the different regions in that area. So stuff like that just jumps out at me. It's like, oh, I've seen this theme and concept before. And I write, so I recognize themes and concepts in writing. Most people try to say, I don't know, to keep their story original. I think sometimes they try to disregard um, where it's been prior, but I don't do that. And that's why we have this show right here. That's what we're doing. We're going over everything. No stone uncovered. You feel me?
Yeah, I don't think that would be what I hear people say. Intellectual honesty. I mean, it's in written text. You can't deny it. It's right there. That's how Sargon was born and came to power. Dating wise, I placed Sargon right before Abraham.
Let me see if I can pull up that podcast and see if that slide comes up.
But Turkey, Darian, of course, another thing is that's where the Ark not Ark, the Noah's Ark landed. Um, the funny thing about it is it states that it landed off the mountains of Ararat, and so like researchers have gone to the actual peak of Mount Ararat and haven't found anything, and so their conclusion is that oh, it was a myth. But once you look off the mountains, plural of Ararat, you'll see it, and it's crazy. It's crazy because uh, remnants of Noah's ship was still around during the time of Sennacherib, because Sennacherib, just like Josephus stated, they would go to that site and take the bitumen that was still there and make amulets out of it.
Roger that. So since we at this particular area, we looking at Mount Ararat. All this stuff is surround Turkey, the Akkadians or Akkad. This is all basically back in Mesopotamia, right? But it's interesting because let's look at one of the deities from this particular area, Enki, Enki. I can share, or you can keep your screen up if you want to put it in. Yeah, and we'll use Wikipedia for now, just to let us know when you're. There we go, perfect. When you scroll down a bit, Enki is the Sumerian god of water, knowledge, crafts, and creation. And here's that word again, and one of the Anunnaki. It wasn't that one of your buzzwords. And so he was later known as EA in Akkadian, and is identified by some scholars with La and Canaanite religion. The name was rendered Eos in Greek. He was originally the patron god of the city of Eridu, but later the influence of his cult spread throughout Mesopotamia and to the Canaanites and the Hittites and Hurrians. He was associated with the southern band of constellations called the Stars of E, but also with the constellation as equal, the fields or the square of Pegasus. Beginning around the second millennium BCE, he was sometimes referred to in writing by a numeric ideogram for 40, occasionally referred to as his sacred number, and the planet Mercury, associated with Babylon, with the Babylonian Nabu, who was the son of Marduk. So it's interesting because we start running back into some common themes. As we discussed earlier about these fallen angel types and these deities, you start to notice they're associated with they start to get associated with like the Anunnaki, which are just like a group of deities within the Sumerian, Akkadian, Assyrian, Babylonian pantheon. And it's funny because they come off as sky gods. You see how we go all the way back to that?
Yeah. Hey, how many horns did Inky have on his crown up there? Was that was Inky right up there at the top?
1, 2, 3, 4, 7.
Oh, seven, huh? That's very interesting. Uh, I, I'm not gonna do it right now. Just go ahead.
All right, so let's look at where it says what is his symbol? Number one, the goat. Number two, the fish. And number three, goldfish. But look at the word. It says chimera. A chimera is a combination of multiple animal species, usually, which is interesting to me.
So that's that
The beast
that
that
crossbreeding
comes.
again.
There we go. And so look in the picture. If you look behind them, you see that stream with those fish-like arrow things and like that weird bird-like creature.
Mm-hmm.
It's just some things to point out in that. It's interesting. And then it says many myths about Enki have been collected from various sites stretching from southern Iraq. There's Iraq again to the Levantine coast. He is mentioned in the earliest extant cuneiform inscriptions throughout the region, and he was prominent from the third millennium all the way down to the Hellenistic period. So he was popular all the way until they replaced him with Prometheus. Hold on, who was he replaced with? He was with Poseidon, and Prometheus. So, which is interesting.
Hey, how many horns did the beast have that came up out of the sea in Revelation?
I don't know. That's a good
10.
question.
He had 10. He had 7 heads. 7 heads, 10 horns. And I'm looking at Inky. I'm trying to put two and two together because the scripture refers to Mystery Babylon. And I think some of us would agree that when we talk about some of these old uh, religions, how they all can be zeroed in right at the Tower of Babel. And Eridu is suspected to be the place where Nimrod built the Tower of Babel or attempted to build the Tower of Babel. And it will be very interesting if this particular deity was the deity of that time.
It's the same region. I know that.
Yeah. So if you type in Eridu, it definitely is the same region. And then if you type in like I'm going off memory. If you type in like Eridu Genesis, uh, it's with an E. Uh, Mesopotamian literature, just so people know what we are discussing. So
And if
there's the
you
same area, Tel Abu Shaharain. Also, Tel Abu Shaharain, that's how you spell it, is the archaeological site in Lower Mesopotamia. It's a lot of information there, which is the city that grew around temples almost in sight of one another. The city of gods of Eridu were Enki and his consort Demkina. Enki, later known as E, was considered to have founded the city. His temple was called the E Abzu, as Enki was believed to live in Abzu, an aquifer from which all life was. You gotta scroll down a little bit.
a water deity.
Right.
It's kind of interesting though, because uh, GT mentioned something about the woman. I mean, Mystery Babylon in Revelation 17. I believe that this is going to even back then we see bits and pieces of this ancient religion uh, being the point of interest even back then, and now we're seeing a revised or a revival of this ancient religion even now. And it's coming in a lot of several forms. It's multifaceted because of the New Age movement. New Age movement kind of syncretizes all of these ancient religions, and it kind of just melds them into the same pot. But it's kind of interesting because at the top of the heap you have this woman riding the beast, and who do you find? Who do you have at the start of all of these other esoteric belief systems? Theosophy, the Quakers. Let's look at Christian Science. All women. I just thought that was interesting.
And if you got to remember that when it first started, who was the very first people to have contact with fallen angels? Women.
Yep.
And
Well,
Nana, she was riding on the beast. If you find a image of her, you'll see for some reason in in Sumerian or Mesopotamian uh, uh, work artwork, they show her riding a beast
Yeah, she is known as the Scarlet Woman
in
in,
Nana.
in Revelation 17. And it's kind of interesting because there are, not to bring it all the way back to modern times, but you look at the Beatles uh, CD, well, not CD, but their album cover, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Band. You see at the middle of the, kind of like at the center of the album cover, you see the Scarlet Woman. And and she's dressed in scarlet. Look at the description, all of the descriptives that are in Revelation chapter 17, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know. In Nana, she was. There's the image
there's a
of her.
good picture right. You see that that picture right here? Pull
Click
that
on
up
it.
with
This
the
one right here.
lion and the wings. Yeah, pull that up. That's a very interesting picture. That's a picture of the Anunnaki, right? But his
So
was crazy about that is multiple people. Um, just it's so much going on in that picture that I think a lot of people just may not realize. These are the same people that are also called the Apkallu by some. What's interesting about them is, you know, it's like seven demigods or seven sages. So in the when you talk about the Apkallu, you're talking about these characters, and it's funny because it's the same location. You have you have a few wise, seven wise type characters that have ability. Like I won't get into their story because I think it probably deserves its own conversation. But it's something to really look at and this goes all the way to Anatolia, ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, Babylonia, Sumer, the Iranian area, the Semitic, Arabian, and Canaan areas. They all have a understanding of who these are based on the text and just the area. Like a lot, there's a wide berth. A lot of people are talking about these characters at that time, and they're talking about they came from heaven, or if you hear from other people, there's a guy I can't think of his name, a black guy, not Bobby Hemmett, the
Billy
younger black
Carson.
yeah, he talks about them too.
He
Now I
talks
don't
about them.
necessarily agree with him, but he does attribute them to coming from like outer space or the heavens, and
have
they
you
come
Can
and
you
deal
show
with
the
humans.
icons on the screen too?
Say it
One
again.
thing
have
I Can you show the icons on the screen?
Roger
One
that.
thing I
what?
did want to point out about this tablet is it's like 3D embossed. Can you still share the screen? Yeah,
Hold on.
this tablet is 3D embossed, which for at the time period, um, you know, they they show you pictures of people chiseling things and etching
Correct.
into things. So this type of technology, they don't know how they created this with the way they did. To the representation of celestial bodies that you see here, and you see how they have the sun in the middle.
Yeah.
And it's not until a couple thousand years later, that people are realizing that this was, well, the system that we're going by now. There was a gap where people thought the earth was flat for a few thousand years. But prior to
Yeah.
this, you see here them depicting systems that we're using now today. Uh just two
Hey,
things I wanted to point out.
but
Also,
doesn't that
Sakari was the
doesn't
only one
that
talking about
coincide?
flat Earth.
Uh
Doesn't
I mean, no, and back in the day they thought it was flat. So and
But doesn't
but
that
bef-
coincide with which I was talking about earlier? How the Watchers, these fallen angels, taught these women astronomy.
Correct. I mean, we literally see them in that picture where this gentleman is holding the actual stela or whatever you want to call it. He's holding it, but there is one sitting down communicating information from our vantage point. Can you see it? And there's the star and the different celestial spheres in. It looks like a heavenly spot between his shoulders next to the other guy. That's definitely what it looks like in that picture.
Let me find the full image of it
Yeah.
without it being cut out.
Now, I want to talk about that. Notice, from this time forward, you begin to hear names in the Greek as Mercury, as Jupiter. You start hearing the names of actual planets being worshipped as deities. Where do you think that came from?
I I think it came from Babel. Uh, and I think the different names given is due to the change in the languages. They all spoke one language at one point in time, and then it changed, and then these particular deities took on different names. They took the memory of what they had at Babel into all these different places surrounding Mesopotamia, down in Egypt, uh, all across the Mediterranean, and not just that, all across the world, because we see like one main concept of religion that's prominent around the world in ancient times, and it's the worship of the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree
Didn't
because
we talk about that earlier?
yeah.
I'm sorry. What were they called? Matter of fact, let me see if I still have that up. That's a good call.
Here's why I wanted to bring it to y'all attention too. If y'all ever read, and y'all got Google there, y'all can look it up. The Book of Jasher. Well, I don't know if it's a he or whatever, but that book states that sometime after the flood, one of the sons of Shem, I think his name is Arphaxad, or one of Arphaxad's son, found a stone tablet that belonged to the antediluvian watchers. And so what we see in here may be a replica, or uh, an example of what he may have found, because uh, let's see, our Faxad would be dated to uh, around the time before the Tower of Babel.
Right. So this brings me back to there was an area in this documentary we were looking at earlier where the Scythians, they were sun worshippers, but they ate people right when they got older. Like this was according to them when they talked about themselves. They discussed these things. There was apparently a failed invasion into Persia somewhere around 1500 BC and something like that. They believed that they believed they believed in the sun. They rode on horseback. They had like blonde hair and blue eyes. Um, they believed that they came from some specific sky deity. I think like called like Dnieper or something like that, like Dnieper. And when instead of waiting for people to grow old, if you were a healthy older guy that was starting to get up there in age, they would perform a ritual and eat you. The only reason they would bury you if you were sick or something. So
Mm.
I'm just pointing out that that's not me saying that's not even a conspiracy. That's something that archaeologists have discussed, and maybe we can get back into that.
I'm sorry. You just said that somebody eats somebody when they get to a certain age.
Yeah,
Yeah, and now in the chat earlier, I was trying to explain that is something that was found to be common, because uh, I guess it was a form of ancestor worship. Um, if you look at pre-dynastic Egypt, you will find uh, you will find this in a mastaba. style type, a mastaba type tomb. A mastaba is not like a pyramid. It's just like a hole dug in the ground surrounded by brick, and then they put like your favorite pottery in there. But in this tomb, it's called Cemetery T. It was found by Flindler's Petrie, and inside he found the skull, some thigh bones, and it looked like the thigh bones had been chewed on. Looked like somebody took the marrow out of the bone. And the bones were set in like a very specific way, and so he deduced from that it was done to honor the dead, and cannibalism was probably a way that they felt it was needed to honor the ancestor.
I'm gonna play. I'm gonna play a little A1. You think it's smart? I see people asking a few good questions. You think it would be smart for me to play a snippet of that documentary from earlier?
Um, yeah, DMG don't monetize anything till later, so he sees if he gets a copyright strike on it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Okay. Let me run it back a little bit. I want people to see. I'm gonna pull it back. I found it. I'm gonna pull it back to about right here.
Kwame made a good point too.
Yeah, yeah, he did. That's why I posted this. Good word, Kwame. All right, let me switch it up and present my screen. Share screen. Now I just gotta figure out. All right, share. Y'all check this out. I'm gonna make this big. Can y'all see that?
Yeah.
mhm.
All right, and
And this is from Robert.
Were always
so,
there and never
yep.
rode in on their horses, introducing Sanskrit, the swastika, and the ethnic caste system thousands of years ago, which they certainly did. Geneticists, having compared mitochondrial DNA from blue eyed individuals in diverse countries such as Jordan, Denmark, and Turkey, concluded that people with blue eyes have a single common ancestor that lived by the Black Sea around 8,000 years ago, spreading out from there during the Holocene, along with domesticated animals, agricultural civilization, and the Aryan language family. By the way, this includes many people that do not have blue eyes, but carry the gene for blue eyes recessively. Live Science recently published an article titled Blue-Eyed Immigrants Transformed Ancient Israel 6,500 Years Ago. The article goes on to say that, quote, thousands of years ago in what is now northern Israel, waves of migrating people from the north and east, present-day Iran and Turkey, arrived in the region. And this influx of newcomers had a profound effect, transforming the emerging culture. What's more, these immigrants not only brought new cultural practices, they also introduced new genes, such as the ones that produce blue eyes, that were previously unknown in that geographic area, according to a new study. Archaeologists recently discovered this historic population shift by analyzing DNA from skeletons preserved in an Israeli cave. The site in the north of the tiny country contains dozens of burials and more than 600 bodies dating to approximately 6,500 years ago, the scientists reported. DNA analysis showed that the skeletons preserved in the cave were genetically distinct from people who historically lived in that region, and some of the genetic differences matched those of people who lived in neighboring Anatolia and the Zagros Mountains, which are now part of Turkey and Iran, the study found. So what we have is a match between biblical stories about a tribe from the Caucasus Mountains, specifically Mount Ararat, where Noah settled, that saved domesticated animals used in agriculture, and spreading out and disseminating agricultural civilization, horses, cattle, and Aryan languages into Europe and Asia, leaving behind blue-eyed statues that also matches genetic sequencing in terms of blue eyes, as well as a matching fossil record in terms of mummies in modern Israel dating back 6,500 years, 4,000-year-old blonde mummies in China with the same DNA, also matching mummies of the Egyptian pharaohs of the same phenotype. So there's absolutely no discrepancy between myth and legends of tall blue-eyed Aryans, properly interpreted biblical accounts, or the genetic or fossil record. In Wikipedia, the stature of the Scythians is recorded as follows, quote, anthropological data shows the Scythians were tall and powerfully built, even by modern standards. This was particularly the case for the warrior and noblemen, who were often more than 6 feet tall. Sometimes they exceeded 6'3" in height, and males exceeding 6'6" have been uncovered. The ordinary people whom they dominated were much smaller stature, averaging 4 to 6 inches below them in height. Skeletons of Scythian nobles differ from those of today by their longer arm and leg bones and stronger bone formation. These physical characteristics affirm an Iranian origin. The Scythians also adorned themselves with tattoos. The most famous Scythian mummy is known as the Ice Princess, discovered in an undisturbed tomb from the 5th century BC, a common type of tattoo being griffins, a legendary creature with the body, tail, and back legs of a lion, and the head and wings of an eagle. In regards to what Scythians say about their origins, Herodotus says that, quote, the Scythians' legend about themselves, which portrays the first Scythian king, Targetus, as the child of the sky god and of a daughter of the Dnieper. Targetus allegedly lived 1,000 years before the failed Persian invasion of Scythia, around 1500 BC. He had 3 sons, before whom fell from the sky a set of 4 golden implements, a plow, a yoke, a cup, and a battle axe. Only the youngest son succeeded in touching the golden implements without them bursting with fire. And this son's descendants, called by Herodotus the royal Scythians, continued to guard them.
Look at some of the artwork, like they crowns and stuff. I'm gonna scroll through just a bit. We don't
Here's how
care.
to turbocharge
We
your
don't
IT
care about
operation.
that.
Go to
And what time period was that from?
My fault. I'll pull it back up in a second.
That artwork?
I
Yeah.
heard 6,000 years BC, and then I saw something happened in 1500 BC.
Yeah, when Targetus allegedly lived 1,000 years before the failed Persia invasion of Scythia, that or around 1500 BC, that's where the legend is built off of.
And I don't know why I keep going back to Noah, but like listening to what was his name, Herodotus, how he named the I guess you would call it the eponymic father or ancestor, Targetus. I can't help but to hear the name Targamas. And Targamas is not, if I'm not mistaken, is the same location of the Scythians. I could
That,
be wrong.
all right, let's check out 3 more minutes. It might cover a lot of the stuff you saying.
Snake-like, and whose upper part was one of a hermaphrodite. The word hermaphrodite is a combination of the words Hermes and Aphrodite, and has occult interpretations that I've covered in previous videos. The lower serpentine body is similar to the legend of Melusine, which is the goddess used by Starbucks on their logo, which I also covered in a prior episode and will leave a link to in the description. In 2017, another genetic study of the Scythians suggested that the Scythians were related to the Yama culture, also known as the Ochre grave culture, dating to the Bronze Age around 3300 BC, which derives from its characteristic burial tradition with red ochre. The pits were called Yama. So as you can see, this area is bordering the north of the Caucasus Mountains, where Mount Ararat is located, and where we find the story of Noah and his 3 sons, which of course is part of the Hebrew Bible or Old Testament. And it's interesting that, according to Herodotus, the Scythians did not eat pork and banned all swine from their territory. That said, let's look at some other names that are attributed to the Scythians. The Encyclopedia Britannica states the term Saka and Scyths were regarded as synonymous. Herodotus wrote that the Persians call all the Scythians Sakai. There are historians that say that the Scythians belong to the 10 lost tribes of Israel, and were allied to what we call the Phoenician Empire, linking the Scythian tribes to the Hebrew patriarch Isaac. According to the Bible, Isaac was the son of Abraham, who was, along with his wife Sarah, the first Israelite to enter the land of Egypt. I can't go into detail regarding the lost tribes now, as that will require several videos to properly cover. But I will say that archaeologically speaking, there is an ancient city in modern Israel just north of Jerusalem that was once called Scythopolis, as you can see here on this map. Which brings us to another name the Scythians were known as, the Askuzai. In Hebrew, the word Ashkenazi means Germans, particularly communities along the Rhine River in western Germany and in northern France dating to the Middle Ages. Their language is Yiddish, which is a form of High German. Swabian is another Aryan language considered High German, which is where New Swabia or Neuschwabenland in Antarctica is named after. In the 19th century, the German theologian August Wilhelm Noble equated Ashkenaz with the Germans, deriving the name of the Asir from Ashkenaz. The Asir are the gods of the principal pantheon in Norse religion, including Odin and Thor.
We're just gonna stop right there, for a second. When he got into Ashkenaz, I would like to see more data on that from him. I'm not really sure. I wish Marcus was on here. He would have been able to call some things out. But in retrospect, I'm trying to stop it so we can.
Have you heard? Because I'm thinking about Israel, the land, the land of Canaan, and there was the descendants of the Canaanites who were called Hittites.
Correct.
I do believe there is some references to Hittites having blonde hair and being blue-eyed.
They definitely lived in the area. It's just interesting to me. The Scythians are mentioned in scripture, though. You know that, right?
I'm trying to think of where at.
In
Remind me.
Colossians chapter 3, I just pulled it up.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's in Colossians. Because this is where Paul was just basically preaching about putting on the new self. And he goes on, what verse did I just say? I didn't forgot that fast. Oh, all
I
right.
think you say Corinthians.
Yeah, Colossians chapter 3 and 11, where he's talking about and have put on the new man, which is renewed in knowledge after the image of him that created him, where there is neither Greek nor Jew, circumcision nor uncircumcision, barbarian, Scythian, bond nor free, but Christ is all and in all. So, and that's the end of that little piece. So they definitely. And hold on, I'm gonna pull up the tool just to see what the blue letter says
I
about.
think Josephus does a good breakdown too.
Yeah, he the man mentioned that in the initial, but I ain't want to go and play the man whole video. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he definitely goes into that. Priestos. I'm trying to find the word Scythian in here so I can. All right. So according to this, it says Scythian equals rude or rough. A Scythian, an inhabitant of Scythia, or this says, or modern day Russia. By the more civilized nations of antiquity, the Scythians were regarded as the wildest of barbarians.
Mm.
And the word Scouthes is of foreign origin, but it means Scythian or savage. I think that's interesting as well.
So I think the reason why I brought up the whole Canaan connection with the Hittites was because we saw most of your Nephilim after the flood come through the children of Canaan. And
Okay.
Genesis 6 says that there were giants in the earth then and also afterwards, because we know that the children of Israel ran into these giants uh, when they went into the promised land. And I guess my question would be, did the Canaanites who ended up, well, the Hittites specifically, like, I won't even say specifically, but it were other tribes in Canaan that had giants in their lineages. So I wonder if the incursion specifically targeted the children of Canaan, and like, where does Josephus say the Scythians come from?
From the Black Sea area around Anatolia on the steppes, on the Asian steppes.
Would they be Jephthite or
Yeah,
part of?
yeah, they're Japhetic. They're
Okay.
European, Indo-European, Aryan, and what the man goes on and says is that their genetics either have blonde hair and blue eyes or green eyes and red hair. So like Attila the Hun. Somebody posted. Some say they are Danites, correct? But uh, I don't necessarily know if I believe that the Danites are, because the Danites are Semitic. The Scythians and the Huns were both Japhetic. So they couldn't. In my personal opinion, I don't think they're the same people. But I'm not an anthropologist, so I can't definitively say anything. You know, but I do think that's an interesting take. And I wanted to throw David a bone because this type of information is definitely in theosophy. That's why I wanted to bring it up some, because we discussed fallen angels earlier. We discussed uh, different bloodlines in various ways. But then when you talk about esoteric theosophy, there was a lady by the name of Annie Besant who believed that they could make superhumans. You familiar with that teaching, Dave?
Repeat that again. I'm sorry.
I said that the reason I brought up some of the things that we discussed earlier with the fallen angels, the Nephilims, the dealings with magic and things of that nature is because a lot of this stuff is also taught in theosophy. And there's a lady by the name of Annie Besant that
Yeah.
discusses the superhumans.
Yup.
Well,
Share
Um,
the screen. Share the screen.
yeah. Actually, it was Blavatsky who started.
okay, I'll share screen. You want
Yeah.
me to make his screen bigger? You saying, or put?
Put us all
I'll
on the screen and share the screen.
say less. Let me all right, I know GT, I don't want to hold you up if you got to get off. I know you got things to handle. I appreciate you for getting on, my boy.
Hey, no problem, bro. Hey, A1, David. Hey, y'all be chill, bro. I'll let y'all.
Appreciate you hopping on.
All right.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
All right, so let me add the stage. So Annie Besant, there you go. David, there you go.
Oh,
Can you see it?
yep. Is this the lady you were talking about right here?
That's her.
Okay, it says Annie Besant, born October 1847 through September 20th, 1933, was a British socialist, theosophist. What did you say that word was? You kept saying it earlier.
Theosophist.
Theosophist, Freemason, women's rights and home rule activist, educationist, and campaigner for Indian nationalism. Hold on, let me see what that source is saying right there, though. For
Yeah,
Annie
hit them
Besant.
sources. Hey, Dave, what do you know about Annie Besant? Isn't this one of the people that you typically discuss?
Okay, this is
Well, actually, Annie Besant was the one of the founders of the Theosophical Society, and right after Blavatsky died, it was Blavatsky and Henry Olcott. Henry Olcott was, if I'm not mistaken, it was her husband, I believe. But Blavatsky died, and Olcott ended up taking over, and then it was Annie Besant, and then Alice Bailey. Alice Bailey started Lucis Trust, and of course it was changed. Well, actually, it was Lucifer's Trust, and then it changed it to Lucifer's Trust. But they all believed in women's rights. They believed that Lucifer was the liberator for mankind. And they also believed in pretty much similar doctrines as Rudolf Steiner. They believed that through the five human senses, you can actually see the metaphysical. You can see the metaphysical. And the idea of theosophy is uh, it's all about enlightenment, and through the physical, you can through the physical body, or through mankind can always evolve spiritually, and it's not about religion; it's about philosophy, science, and religion.
Okay.
Interesting breakdown. And this is the logo for Theosophy.
Yeah.
And by the way, you see the swastika at the top there, and you see the Ankh in the middle of the hexagon. It's pretty interesting how that's
Look
all.
what's circling it though. You see
Huh?
what's circling it? There's Oros Boros,
Yeah,
or a snake eating its tail above that.
right. That yeah, the Ourosporus, that's also pretty prevalent in alchemy. Alchemy circles. And if you notice in the Book of Exodus, where the Egyptians were dying after being bitten by snakes, and then Moses holds up the snake, wrapped around this pole, and says, "Look and live." But occultist has twisted this story to mean that it's the snake that giveth knowledge, and so of course, alchemy is the occultic uh, doctrine of turning precious metals into, well, turning straw into precious metals, and things of that sort, and transmuting elements. Uh, and not only that, but that's where the hermetic view of as above, so below comes from. As above, so below means that what you see above is the same as what it is below. But yeah, Blavatsky and Annie Besant and Alice Bailey pretty much set the stage for people like Crowley and the all of the others that came after them.
Okay. You know, so while you was talking, I ran into one of her books, the Annie Besant lady. She has a book, and it is called Superhuman Men in History and in Religion. And it literally goes into uh, manifestations of superhuman beings in our world, uh, restorations of the mysteries. Because keep in mind, for her, the mystery religions would be amalgamation, and I kind of forgot to speak on that. Is most of the old ancient religions, ancient cultures like Babylon, Egypt, uh,
Well, if you,
Sumeria.
and if you think about it, a lot of the ancient, all of the religions that we see now, all of the Eastern religions in particular, are amalgamations of the ancient mystery religions of of days past. Uh,
Yeah,
you look at all of the Satanism, even that's an amalgamation of uh, what we see in ancient Babylon. Baal worship.
In the private chat, I just dropped a link to the actual book, so you can actually read through a couple of pages. You can click the link A1 if you want to pull it up for the viewers, so they can see that this is stuff that people really be talking about. You know,
You dropped a link for
that same book you looking at.
okay. Oh, so we can go inside of it.
Yeah, I
Okay,
feel like
gotcha.
that'll make more sense
Yep.
because these people, this is what these people really believe. They they really believe this stuff.
Wow.
Annie Besant talking about superhumans, occultism, and mysticism. Even in there says what King Minos. I've seen a couple of pages there.
My bad. My
No,
mouse
you
acting
good.
funny. Let me get it together. Okay, here we go. Superhuman men in history. Let me zoom out just a hair.
Somebody's TV is pretty loud.
You know what page you wanted me to go to?
Oh no, I just skimmed through it real quick.
Okay, I'm gonna
Something
just
around page 1 says manifested. I'm looking at
let's
the
go
forward and
see what page 7 talking about.
yeah,
I was gonna read the summary on the book.
definitely.
Okay, instead of because I don't know.
But I'm not. I
What
mean, I'm
page
not trying to get nobody in their magic.
Yeah, just so that way people can see what she's writing about, though. We're not trying to convert anybody to anything. We're
Hmm.
just here reviewing information that's, the history of this stuff, the history of religion, the history of theology, and all the subset cultures that derive from it. Let me go back. Okay. It says here, we are to deal here with the special manifestations of two superhuman men in history and religion, with the life, the superpower of the two supreme teachers of the world. Tonight, the general theory is to be the subject of discourse. We are to trade through age after age the reappearance of this world teacher for the helping of the man, for the founding of great religions. I'm reading shitty right now. Let me tighten that. Then, in another discourse, we are to study the subject from its more mystical side, to consider the relation of the human spirit to the divine, and to try to see the conditions of the unfolding of the Christ in man. Those of you who are familiar with the Christian teachings will remember how the great initiate St. Paul pointed out that it is the intention of the Christian religion to bring out the birth of the Christ within the individual believer, and that the Christ child, thus born in the human spirit, was to grow and develop into the full stature of the Christ was reached in man. I get it, but this is okay. This is deep stuff, though. I mean, but what isn't in philosophy, honestly? Um, Last sentence. Until that becomes objectively true, as it is ever true implicitly in the human being, Christ cannot become the firstborn among the brethren, surrounded by those who have reproduced in themselves his own likeness, so that the great family of the sons of God shall be realized as the rationale of the evolution of the sons of man. Woo, she spent some fire in there. I mean, well, she didn't write that. And this came out 2016. Obviously, she wasn't around to put this out, but
Yeah, I mean the book. I think they just republished her work.
yeah, that's what I was just letting everybody know. For
You know,
anybody
yeah.
seeing that
So
date, you see what else she's talking about.
you know what we should do? We should look at and see exactly what theosophy. I'm gonna give you the link to this. I found the theosophical website. Let's see
Okay.
what they teach. Like, if it's like what are their actual practices? Because
Now
I
I
just
had it
think that
pulled up on Wikipedia, but you want to go? You got the link to the site? It's in the back chat.
yeah, I put it in the private chat. Yep. So
Gosh.
if you want to see it, because these
Oh
people tell
yeah,
you what they believe in.
this way better. Is that
Yep, I can see it.
whoever did their website did a good job.
Yeah, that's funny.
I like this collage right here. This collage is fire. Okay, let me go ahead and read this to you. Theosophy. We humans know that we could be much more than we ordinarily are. But what is this? We potentially do what we have that we could develop more fully. Wait, What potentially do we have that we could develop more fully? And who could tell us what that this potential is? There is a body of knowledge that answers these questions. It provides theory, practice, and techniques that enable us to free ourselves from the limitations of ordinary life and achieve greater happiness, wisdom, and peace. This knowledge has gone by many names: the ancient wisdom, the perennial philosophy, the wisdom tradition, because it is universally true. It is found all over the world, but it takes many different forms depending upon the time and circumstances of the people it is addressing. I like this statement because it immediately makes me think of syncretism. Um, did you get that when I was reading it?
I mean, that's definitely what it is. I found the what we believe page is a little bit. It's on this. You're on that page. So when you scroll down, I had scrolled down before I sent it to you. It's definitely syncretism. I don't agree with it, but I can see why it has a allure to it. You know what I mean?
hmm One version of this ancient wisdom in recent times is theosophy, derived from Greek roots meaning
Yeah,
divine wisdom.
Drathio, it is. This is live, Drathio. If I'm saying your name right.
Yep, we live, baby. We live. Hit that bell so you get a notification every time we go live. Smash that like button and hit share so your friends can get a bite of this. You feel me? Okay, let me read this paragraph over. One version of this ancient wisdom in recent times is theosophy, derived from Greek roots meaning divine wisdom. It is a body of knowledge that tells us about our place in the universe and why the world is the way it is. Although it agrees in many respects with scientific theories, it goes past them in addressing unseen realities that we all experience, but often don't understand. It answers many questions that people have, such as, why am I here? What is the purpose of the universe? Is there a God? Why does there seem to be evil and injustice in the world? How can I have a purposeful and meaningful life? These are
Hey, bro.
questions. What's that?
As you was reading it, the first thing that popped in my brain is like, I guarantee you, if we start getting into their teachings, it's gonna be hella pseudo. You,
We might have. Hey, that might be a whole podcast. Like,
yo, to ask questions. Is this pseudo?
I want to. You know how they got like a donkey of the week? We're gonna have to do a pseudo, a king
Pseudo,
pseudo of the week or a super pseudo of the week.
pseudo of the week. And if you're a theosophist, we don't mean no disrespect in terms of calling you a pseudo, but certain things, if we can't quantify with science in that particular aspect, and y'all, and that it's being taught, and that's what somebody else wants. It might not even be us. It might be somebody that hearing the material that's in one of our, in the paradigm shift family that be like, man, this joint ain't official. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they were. If it ain't
Especially,
what the Bible say, there's some Christians. It's pseudo. If
or
it,
if it ain't what the atheist saying,
yeah,
and it's too metaphysical, they're not going for that at all.
yep. I try to stay away from all that supernatural stuff, man. Like we can't prove it, so and I take the skeptic's position. I admit, I'm not
And I'm a
saying.
Christian. So David, I know David a Christian too. So we looking at this with the you
Yeah, we
know.
all are at the same time. That's funny. Okay, this last paragraph. The Theosophical Society in America has a vision of wholeness that inspires a fellowship united in study, meditation, and service. This sounds dope, but this is how they sell, this is any political campaign. They're campaigning and trying to get you to come in. They always got food, drinks, refreshments, and the music playing to get you to stop by.
Yeah.
And it's
Day
not
one
until
is
you,
always the best
yeah,
day at you sign up.
it's not until you hang around for a while that you see all the BS popping off. But let me go ahead and finish this.
You can scroll
Okay.
down. It's going to say what do theosophists believe directly under that too.
Okay, that's what we're looking for. What do
Yeah.
theosophists believe? Boom. Ever since its founding in 1875, the Theosophical Society
Theosophical. Yeah.
has stood for freedom of thought and respect for all people, regardless of race, class, caste, sex, and religion. To join the Theosophical Society, you are required to have no specific beliefs. You need to only state your agreement with the society's 3 objects: to form a nucleus of the universal brotherhood of humanity without distinction of race, creed, sex, caste, or color; They're really recruiting, aren't they?
Are they?
Are they? They boy, any and everybody. You know, we don't turn anybody away. Okay. Number 2, to encourage the comparative study of religion, philosophy, and science. Now, I'm all for that. That's what we're doing right now. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, let's keep it moving. Number 3, to investigate unexplained laws of nature and the powers latent in humanity.
There go metaphysical stuff. You about to back up.
You know, I investigate it. It's just, you know, I don't attach belief to it. I have to, you know, I'm scientific in my approach to this stuff. So, well, you know, I'm gonna see what they talking about. It sounds interesting, but again, you know, it's day one, and I'm just not gonna drink the Kool-Aid when I go to their mixer. You feel me? Stating your approval of these 3 objects is the sole condition of membership. All members have an equal right to follow any school of thought, but have no right to force their choice on others. The society fearlessly encourages freedom of thought and expression with the limits and courtesy and consideration for others. Dang, you know, it sounds real appealing. I'm waiting for the BS to pop out. Most theosophists regard truth as a prize to be striven for, not as a dogma to be imposed by authority. We hold that belief should be the result of individual understanding rather than mere acceptance of traditional ideas, and that it should rest on knowledge and experience, not faith. We seek out truth, study, reflection, meditation, service, devotion to high ideals. I'm feeling this. It just sounds like they might whack you if you disobey. You know, it sounds like the Scientology type stuff. Like, I heard Tom Cruise is putting hits on people. Like, you know,
that's crazy.
Let me keep it moving. The Theosophical Society in America is a membership organization. It is one branch in a world fellowship, the International Theosophical Society, with headquarters in Adar, Shinya, India. All are welcome to use our resources and attend programs and events, and we encourage those who sympathize with our mission to become members. See, that's how they get you. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Like, if you see how I don't like that. The word sympathize. Now they're appealing to my emotion when they were, you know, being so rational above, and then they just throw all of that out the window with this word. If you sympathize with what we're trying to do, I mean, I guess.
Yeah, they
I'm
casting that sympathy vote.
Yeah, maybe I'm overthinking it, but when they do that, like, don't do that to me, man. Like, it's fear mongering and trying to play on my sympathy and empathy to believe in something. Like, this ain't the time for my sympathy. If you hurt, I got sympathy for you. We talking about scientific concept. I mean, scientific shit, and excuse my language. We're talking about science, theology, philosophy. Sympathy has nothing to do with this, but you know, they are talking. I digress. Let me keep it moving. To fulfill our mission in promoting fellowship and spiritual education, the Theosophical Society in America has local groups around the country where members can meet, explore, and practice together. Practice what? Let's keep it moving. Maybe meditation. Organizes lectures, classes, and workshops at different local groups. And I'm about to look them up because it sounds so appealing. But most cults do, and it's giving me cult vibes right
It's
now.
giving me cult vibes, bro. I ain't even gonna hold you.
Yeah, I'm not gonna cap to you, like, and I'm just skimming the surface. Everybody else is probably like, "What is he talking about? It sounds great. Go ahead, take your kids." You know, no, don't do that. That's actually the opposite of what I want you to do. I want you to research this. Don't just pop up at an event with your kids because they got Kool-Aid and the bouncy house. Okay. Offers online resources that include articles, audio lectures, videos, live webinars, webcasts, and more, which we will be tapping into, and you probably will be seeing some watch videos soon of us breaking this stuff down. Publishes books and quarterly magazines on spirituality called Quest, Journal of the Theosophical Society in America. Okay, so I have something to look up after we get off of here. Has libraries that specialize in spiritual subjects, both at the National Center in Wheaton, Illinois, as well as at the different local groups. Is affiliated with theosophical camps that host courses and seminars in natural settings suitable for contemplation, meditation, and learning. And then I don't know why when I'm reading that, like Bohemian Grove popped in my head.
That's crazy.
Why did that pop in my head?
All right, so click that last link I sent you on the private joint, and I typed it in the dictionary and see what come. Read what come up. You see it over there?
Yeah, the super long link.
Yeah, it was crazy how I did that. I was like, why is it so long?
Oh, it's not let me copy it. There we go. Where was I at? Theosophical Society. Okay, I'm on this tab right here. Boom. I see how you will lose yourself in these tabs.
Yep.
Because
I got a million tabs.
when I click something, it's opening up a new tab instead of just going to it in the same browser.
That's what I thought it was going to do.
And I'll be scrolling on the page thinking y'all following along, and y'all on the tab back.
Facts.
Okay. Boom. Okay, here we are. Is this what I'm theosophy?
Go to the Merriam-Webster dictionary. Let's just see what the dictionary say about these people.
Boom. Teaching about God, the world based on mythical insight. What? A mystical insight. But what?
And then the second thing says, what did it say? It's a little too small. Let me make my screen bigger.
And who's the authority on what insight is mystical, though? Like, I'm trying, that the definition doesn't really define.
Look at the second one. Look at the second definition for it.
Okay. Often capitalized. The teachings of a modern movement originating in the U.S. in 1875. I'm assuming that was Ann Bissett, right?
No, Helena Petrovna Blavatsky.
Oh yeah, Helena Blavatsky. Okay, yeah, that, and you know what? I keep hearing these names, and it's starting to click to me, and I'm starting to be able to put the pieces together and have a timeline in my head. But it takes you got to go over this information a few times.
Facts.
Like I see why Jay Fax hopped out. Not no shots at him because I know his specialty. He's got a field of study, and that's his specialty.
It said chiefly Buddhist and Brahmic theories, especially of pantheistic evolution and reincarnation.
Wow, they're like all. I almost want to say they're all over the place, but not really. Buddhist, Brahmic. I have to look into this. I'm surprised I've never heard of this. Like y'all putting me.
Brahmic is like the Vedas. That's India. Hindu. It's Hindu. That's like Hindu and Buddhist teachings, which have a lot of overlap.
And I'm looking at it like, okay, they brought this here, and I mean, what's to stop us from creating our own after we do enough studying?
I mean, that's what people do.
Because we know the sciences, we know what it takes to create a system that works. And we're gonna talk about that. Not saying that we actually gonna do it, but we just made podcast on it,
Oh dang, we had an hour and 35 minutes already.
Oh yeah, we've been going. Time fly fast when you learning. The word theosophy, combining the roots meaning God and wisdom, appeared back in the 17th century. But the well-known religious movement by that name, under the leadership of Russian Helena Blavatsky, I like that name, that last name for some reason, Blavatsky. Them Russians got some names. Appeared only around 1875. Blavatsky's theosophy combined elements of, what is this popping up?
Plato's philosophy.
I done click something. Okay. Where was I at? Oh, Plato's philosophy. Oh, right. Blavatsky's theosophy combined elements of Plato's philosophy with Christian, Buddhist, and Hindu thought, including reincarnation. Okay, so she took, and that's what a lot of people are doing right now, honestly. You know what I'm saying? They're not putting a label on it. They're not putting out their own doctrine, but people are studying different.
It's almost like she just found some stuff in each piece and just mixed it together to make her own thing.
And this is what we do every day as people. You know what I'm saying? We don't give it a name, but we take what works, and the stuff we don't like, we get rid of. It's a lot of people who be like, you know what, I don't like this part of the Bible, or I don't like where it says this. I'm not dealing with that. And
let me ask you that. Do you think, just in general, it don't have to be Bible based, it could be anything, do you think that that's a good thing, or can it be a bad thing? I know it's a subjective question, but cherry picking things like that, Do you think that can be beneficial
I
in this
think,
area?
I mean, based on what I call inconsistencies and some contradictions, I think that you have to. I think when ideas contradict each other, I mean, you either have to make an executive decision on which lesson oh, wait, let me give you an example to better explain it. An eye for an eye, a cheek for a cheek. I mean, an eye
Right,
for an eye or turn the other cheek. So if somebody slaps you, you have to make the executive decision on what you're going to do, but they're both in the text. You see what I'm
right.
saying? So it's like some people can be like, I'm just never going to deal with the eye for an eye. I'm going to be a turn the other cheek person. And I see people like that. And then I see people who, they may want to embrace their dark side and they're on that eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. And they're using the Bible to express that, push that. You know what I'm saying? And neither of them, I don't believe either of them are wrong. I believe it's based on the person. The way the book is written, each person can read it and get a completely different take idea and take on it. So that's why this is so weird to me. Like, I if God wanted everybody to know exactly what he meant, I don't think this was the best way to disseminate the message and preserve it.
Well, you mean the
So,
theosophy way or the Bible way?
well, the Bible way,
Okay.
because it's been the integrity of the text through translations and um all the forgeries and Christian apologist forgeries and stuff that's been going on. It's like, who can we trust at this point? And God knows that wouldn't have been the best way to preserve his message. So it's like you have to pick and choose, because at this point, I feel like at this point, who do we believe? What can we believe? Everybody's trying to tell you a different way to interpret it. We have all these different denominations all claiming to be Christian. And I don't even call them, I don't say Christianity anymore. I say Christianities, because each one is his own different religion with their own different teachings. They do share core tenets, but it's a different brand as soon as they start doing different practices. Um, and I don't say Christians. I don't say Christian. I say Christians. Because there's many different brands of them. I call them brands. Some people feel like that term is insulting, but it's just how I break it down.
I understand.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be. I don't be trying to be insulting. I just try to define it actually as the way it is, because I feel like a lot of terms too are Christian apologist terms to soften the language, and like when you explain it a certain way, it strikes your logic a certain way. You know what I'm saying? So I
I
do say,
understand where you're coming from.
and that's why I'll explain it to people like that, like as a matter of fact way, like you're practicing a brand of Christianity. Or before a Christian debates me, I'll always ask them, okay, what brand of Christianity do you practice? And that first question usually, what do you mean? Like, okay, do I have to
But
explain
some of
that
us
to you?
don't have no specific brand.
I know I mean. Well, when I say brand, I mean denomination, though.
Right? I get what you're saying. I don't have a denomination. So,
Well,
and
I do.
Christianity and Judaism isn't it's not Eurasian. It's Middle Eastern.
Hmm.
I'm just responding to somebody in the chat, but he say that all the time. Only thing I can do is tell you I disagree and move forward. But ultimately, um, yeah.
Good
So
chat,
we looked
body
at
work.
theosophy today. Earlier, we looked at just different locations in between Europe, Asia, or what they call Asia Minor, which is Turkey. And then we looked at looked again briefly at the Scythians and how they moved around and just some of the things about them. Um, it's just a lot of it's just a lot of different things that we can get into. But you want to wrap it up for the night because I gotta get something to eat.
Definitely, definitely, man. I appreciate everybody for stopping by and tuning in. Shout out everybody in the chat. Shout out the GT. Shout out Jay Fax for stopping by. David Chandler definitely for chiming in. He's the man of the hour with the expert analysis on a lot of this stuff. I'm gonna have to watch this back and write down a lot of the names that you guys are dropping and just, go on a
I mean,
documentary
I give you if
spree.
you want. I just write a list of them and just put them in your inbox.
Yeah, so I can catch up and
That way you don't gotta rewatch this video. This was more of an impromptu. We had a lot of guests. We didn't really like how we did it earlier. It was kind of a linear path where we talked about magic, we talked about bloodlines, we talked about the Bible in that particular context. This time we kind of jumped around a lot, and it was just to kind of get some things going and just to hear from other people. But yeah, this is definitely cool. I like the name Conspiracy Corner, and I'm just reading one of Kwame's essay. He said the Bible is based in Turkey, Armenia, northern Syria, the Levant, and slavery in Africa. I disagree, but okay. Um, Armenia is further up. The Bible is based around Canaan, Mesopotamia, like places, and then I think it's Syria. But I mean, unless he's speaking on something specific, uh, large majority of the Old Testament is in the land of Canaan, around Egypt, going into the going more into the Fertile Crescent, Mesopotamia area. It's not going
well,
all the way up to the Black Sea. But I digress.
his next comment, he says how Abraham and his family from Turkey and Noah's Ark landed in Mount Ararat. That part, though, yeah, we covered that. We did
Yeah,
cover
but
Mount Ararat.
we covered that, that but it's not. To make it, just because people landed in locations, like the way people talk in modern times about regions, the regions boundaries and markers are not the same, and that's all I'm trying to say. I'm just giving you pushback to realize, like, if I look at a map and I lived at that time, nobody was calling it Africa. It wasn't called that. Like, to say, and the people groups have changed over times and moved around. Like, we watched a nomadic people go from modern day Iran all the way into India and all the way into Europe, and they wasn't even Israelites at all. They were just another group of people. They they have genetic mixings in everybody's culture. So just stuff like that. But I see your screen. I know you want. But I digress. I'm gonna let you wrap it up for us, bro. David, did you have anything you wanted to say real quick?
Not really.
Okay.
I'm thankful that you guys had me on the show again, and this is. I'm looking forward to having more shows like this because there are a lot of things that I wanted to really talk about. But I'll get the opportunity the next time. There's a show like this on the
Sure.
horizon.
Couple
And
days, we got you.
one more response to Kwame. If you go back, maybe it's been an hour and 45 minutes. So if you go back about an hour and a half, we did have the map of Turkey and Armenia up. We even discussed that A1 has a good friend from Armenia. And we talked about the steps and everything. Like, we discussed quite a bit. Sometimes I think because you come on at a different time, you haven't seen what we covered, but I understand. I like when you come on. So hopefully the next show we do, it'll be something that you might want to chime in on. We'll drop the link. Today it was just kind of like an overview. We trying to build this particular series. Me and A1 will be doing Conspiracy Corner frequently if time permits, while he
Definitely,
and I are still free before business pick up.
definitely. Everybody subscribe to my YouTube channel at Astro Projections 369. Kwame, subscribe for me. I expect to see you in my comments real soon. Appreciate you, Hotep. Um, and don't forget to subscribe to the whole effing show. The big channel, the whole effing show. I mean, excuse me, Paradigm Shift TV 314. Hit that up on YouTube, and definitely can't forget about the whole effing show. Shout out to Craig's and the law firm.
Shout out
Doing
to
it
my man
big.
DMG who let us do our thing on here. You know,
Big
and
shout out
don't
to
forget
DMG.
that the battle of the ideologies is about to take off with the final four. You're gonna see Pandemus versus Lord Benu, and then A1 versus J Fax. So A1 was on the show today, who was the other host, and then J Fax was also on earlier. So we already know the boy Cannon. You got my man A1, aka Astro Projections 369.
Signing out. Peace to the family. Have a good night.
Peace.